Hello and welcome to another video. Today I thought we would start getting into the holiday season a little bit, and I would make a card with you with the Christmas Gleaming Variety Bundle, which is a card that I thought would be pretty simple. It's a little bit of a fun fold, but nothing really complicated. So any of you, as long as you had a paper trimmer, would be able to get this card done with really very easy to do. And the reason it's called a variety bundle is because it comes with this beautiful stamp set, which has two different of these like larger ornaments, this smaller one, this holly, this stamp here with the Merry Christmas with the two fonts, which is just lovely, right? And you can have like Merry Christmas and then put "and be jolly this season," or "deck the halls with boughs of holly," and "be jolly." Like there's a lot of really good opportunities here for some lovely cards. This could be added to a card to have it kind of progress throughout the piece of paper inside or outside. You can make some really fun things with this. So the reason why though it's called a variety bundle is because to get these two different ornaments, they actually made two different punches. So let's set it upside down. So you've got this smaller punch, which is kind of that medium size, and you've got this larger punch for the larger bauble of this ornament here, and that makes it this variety pack. And when you buy this particular bundle together in the holiday catalog, it's on page 19. It comes with this particular stamp set that I just showed you, and with the two punches, and that actually can still be purchased at a bundle price, which saves you 10% if this is a stamp set that you think would be one that you'd like to add to your collection. And then just to note as well, they have this lovely designer series paper that you can choose from, which is specialty designer series paper, because within it you will find copper foiling. Let me show you a few of these pages. I'm not going to show you all of them because I figured you'd probably want me to start making the card, but like, look at that. And that's with pretty peacock and the copper. And then this is one of the pieces that I used on that card with more of like the little mini baubles. You could cut these out and like have kind of a flowing design, or you could have some kind of a tree. Oh, let me show you these two. If you want like maybe holiday paper but not used for a holiday purpose, look at that. Just in copper stars on a Night of Navy background. This could be used with the World of Good stamp set if you wanted, right? Kind of the following your stars and your passions. And then I thought there was another really, oh yeah, here we go. So like this one here also, right? Not necessarily holiday themed. On the back side, we've got this really more muted pattern. That one kind of gives me the vibe of, almost makes me think of like a wallpaper, if that makes sense. And then you've got, essentially on one side, you've got the copper. On the opposite side, you've got a pattern of some sort, but it's not copper foiled. And then let me show you the back of, yeah, and then here's this one. We're gonna actually use this piece today. So let me show you. This is the card that I made ahead of time, and I thought rather than making the exact same card, especially because maybe Pretty Peacock is not your favorite color, I figured I would show you one where the base, instead of Pretty Peacock, was going to be in the Mossy Meadow, which is another of the colors that is found in this DSP. So it's these ornaments right here, and it's this piece which is on the back of that same piece. So notice how they coordinate really well. So let's go ahead and get started. Excuse me. And for this, I actually need both the ink pads, and I did use the blends for each of the colors. However, if you didn't have the blends, you could use a blender pen and pick up color from the ink pads. You could find your, if you wanted to like heat emboss, you could even watercolor with these colors if you wanted to. I had the blends for both colors, which is very handy, so that's what I used for mine. So first things first, if you want to cut out your DSP ahead of time, you will need two pieces that are going to be cut out at 2.5 inches by 4, so you need 2 pieces of those. They can be from the same paper but flipped. They could be from different papers. This piece, for example, this is the back of a different type of paper, so I didn't have to use them, but I thought since I was making the pretty peacock, it's a little bit harder to spot here, so I thought, well, this paper would tie it in really well. Note also that in this card, we're not using Whisper White, we are using Very Vanilla as the cardstock color there. So you need 2 pieces of that. You'll need to have, this is essentially a regular card base right here. So it is actually 4 1/4 by 11, but scored at 5 1/2. But at this value right here of 2 3/4, I just chop that piece right off. And then that chopped piece will become our layering piece right here. Okay, well, I should probably be a little more centered. There you go. So again, see how it's, you just have it right here and you chop it right in the middle. If you wanted to, you could chop it a little bit more, a little bit less. There's really a lot of opportunity here for variety. But in terms of making it kind of easy to have all your pieces the right sizes, just your 2 1/2 by 4, right? 2 1/2 by 4, and then your piece here, so that this piece here ends up being 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. And this ends up being 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, so that these pieces are going to layer very nicely. Okay, so that's that. And then you'll need a few other pieces. So this piece right here is actually, your piece here is 1 1/2 inches by, I believe it's, was it 2 3/4 inches. It does not need to be exactly this. This is actually the piece I used right here for my sentiment. You could have cut something decorative. You could do a lot of different things with this. I chose to kind of hide where it would end with my baubles and my holly. You could choose to have it extend if you wanted. You could do all kinds of different things, but I thought that this here made it nice and center. Plus, as long as you space it well and you stamp your sentiment here, that helps kind of tie it all in together. And then this piece here I used for my sentiment on the inside. The one thing with this type of card, if you wanted to, let me just grab a piece of the very Whisper White. So this Whisper White, if I had the whole piece on the inside, I would definitely see it here, which is fine. You don't necessarily have to have it hidden, but I thought for this card, let's leave it where you can't really see it. So that is what I chose to do. So let's go ahead and get started so I can show you how to make this card. So first things first, let's go ahead and stamp our baubles here, our ornaments. I just have a scrap of our Very Vanilla. Go ahead and stamp those off. See, this one I made the larger one tie in with the color of the cardstock. I'm going to do that same thing. Here's my Mossy Meadow. I'm going to make sure that it's nice and inked up, and then I'm going to, actually let's do it kind of at an angle here, monopolize our cardstock so as to not have so much waste. I'm going to do the same thing here. Oh, whoops, I'll see, and look at that. Well, you know what, let's go ahead, ooh, I know, let's stamp it right here on the inside. I did not mean to use Mossy Meadow. I meant to use Pretty Peacock, and this is what happens when I don't pay attention. So let's go ahead, get out my Stampin' Chamois, rinse that off so I can switch colors. Oop, there we go. Looks clean to me. Let's go ahead now. Do that. There we go. A little heavy-handed there, me. Oof. Okay. As long as I don't push too hard, should be a-okay. Looks good. So now I can put that one away too. And one more thing, I'll be able to punch both of these out, but to actually get my holly, I will have to cut that out by hand. So I'm going to use this, and because I personally am using my blends, I do need to use my water-based, or my water-based ink here. So I am using my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, because I'm going to be coloring it in with my blends, which are alcohol-based markers. So water and alcohol don't mix, which is why you want to use opposite types of ink pads for that. This is for my sentiment, so before I put everything away, and in this case I'm also going to do the same thing. I'm going to use Mossy Meadow for my sentiment instead of using Pretty Peacock. So if I did my math right, about right here, just a little off center will be sufficient for my card. So let's go ahead and do that. And now I'll show you how easy it is to use these punches. You just go ahead, open it up, line it up, and there we go. Boop. And then do the same thing for this one. Unfortunately, there's no punch for that holly, so I will have to cut that one out myself. But before I do that, let's go ahead and commit to coloring it so that way if I make a mistake, I don't have one all beautiful and cut out and then my coloring is a hot mess. So I can put those off to the side for now and then color these in. So normally holly berries I don't think are this kind of bluish color, but I thought that adding a pop of red would just not be a great choice for this card. So I did use this pretty peacock color to add color to my berries. I thought that that would be better than to doing it the opposite way, which would be to add Mossy Meadow berries and then pretty peacock leaves. I thought that would be a little bit, I don't know, sillier is not the right word, but definitely like a harder sell, if that makes sense. So now I don't want my lines to be too harsh, so I'm gonna go back in with my light pretty peacock. So same thing for my Mossy Meadow. I'm gonna color it in with my light first. And I'm using the brush tip because notice I'm getting a lot of coverage pretty quickly. You do want to be a little bit gentle here around the edges of the leaves so that you're not going to go outside of the lines, and also because it might bleed a little bit if you color in too heavily too close to the edge. So I'm kind of outlining it a little bit so I can color the inside without as much fear of, there we go. So see, now I can just boop, 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 boop. There we go, problem solved. There we go. So now I just add a little bit of dimension, and because this is a pretty big leaf here, I am using the wide tip for this as well. You definitely don't need to. I'm actually going to go back in and blend it in with the light as well. You definitely wouldn't want to do this if you were what am I saying? Oh, if this was a really small leaf, using the brush tip would be almost dangerous in terms of having you risk having some kind of error. So now I'm going to go ahead and use my paper snips, and I'm actually, just to get a better handle on it, I'm not going to want to hold the whole thing while I am, there we go, while I'm cutting it out. So I'm just going to cut out a piece. The holly is usually a little bit of what's toughest to get, so I do try to, well, not the holly berry, but the leaves themselves. So I do try to come, and in this case, I don't want much of a halo. So and the lines for the berry and the leaves are actually kind of thick. So I'm actually going to try to cut essentially just a sliver of the black away. Not enough where it seems thin, but just enough where it seems like I'm not having this kind of image take away from like the coloring. Essentially, if the border was a little too wide, sometimes it takes away, not that this, not that the ornaments are very authentic looking, right, like realistic, but I feel like if there's too much of a border, sometimes it does kind of take away from the style of the card, or certainly what you might have been aiming for. So that's what I'm doing here, is just going ahead, and notice here I'm not moving my wrist much. I'm moving the paper because that is going to be how you can get more control over your cuts. Okay, so, and notice this is a card where if I was going to be mass producing it, so like say this was my card for all my family for the holiday season, I would probably not add this holly piece because I could punch out all the baubles in the world, but I would probably not want to necessarily have to type, goodness gracious, to punch out, or in this case fussy cut. And notice here you can actually tell, I don't think you can tell a little bit, see the little black border, right? So that's exactly what I was looking for, just a smidgen of the black so that very little of the very vanilla is left behind. So now we're at the assembly part. That's all there is in terms of prep work. So let's go ahead, and in this case, let's use our Tombow. All right, and then notice here we've got right here, beautiful. And notice I'm not putting too much, but I am trying to get a little bit up to the corners. And here's the thing, make sure they are upright. Ask me how I know. That is a headache you do not want. So make sure when you put your glue on there that once you're done, you put it the right way. So here, it just hurts sometimes to put the glue on top of the foil. I have to force myself to do that sometimes because it'll be like it's the better pattern or I'm going for a particular style. Oof, it just hurts sometimes. That's okay. So I'm doing the same thing with this piece, nice and center. And now here's the catch. Ready? I'm putting it here, so I can't put adhesive on this side. I pick one side, and that's the only side I put adhesive to. And I don't want to put too much either, so this is, about half. And so now it's important that you layer it where, notice here you've got about the same amount of space in each corner. And that looks about good to me. Actually, it looks a little bit high. Let's see if I can squeeze it down a little bit. Oops, hello. So that's another benefit. If you have not yet tried the Tombow liquid adhesive, I do recommend it. And that's because, as you just saw, I was able to kind of wiggle it a little bit more. If I had used the Seal or the Seal Plus, that would not have been an option for me. So next, let's go ahead and adhere this because we're going to add the baubles on top. So this needs to be in there next. So let's go ahead, do that. This was probably more glue than I needed, but I'm actually going to do the same thing. So, but notice, because I'm going to be adding the ornaments over here, this doesn't need to be centered with that piece. It needs to be centered over here with this corner. And that looks about right to me. So now I'm going to keep the layout the same. I'm going to have this piece and that piece, and then this one on top. And actually, I kind of like that, having this a little bit higher than that one. It's kind of fun, but I did have the smaller one on top, so I think I'm still going to do that. Let's switch those out. So let's put this guy down first. If you wanted to, you could definitely raise this up on your cardstock. Like pop it up with some dimensionals. I thought for this card though, the paper kind of spoke for itself, the ornaments kind of spoke for themselves, and I thought that adding an extra layer of dimensional would be nice, but not necessarily something that's needed for the card to be complete. So I didn't force that. You could have. I almost thought to do it with these the holly, but I thought, you know what, this card really doesn't need it. And here I'm gonna see this corner. I don't want that to show. So whatever I decide to do in terms of its design here, I'm gonna make sure that that little corner doesn't show. And there we go. That is the front of our card. We just need to add this last piece. If I wanted to, you could actually stamp in the extra sentiment here, and be jolly this season on that inside piece, but because my piece is so small, I thought, you know what, let's leave it as is, and that way at least I can write some kind of message should I send this out to someone. So, and then this one, just to make sure you're not going to go over, you want to make it center, because remember, that's how we made our card. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered, but centered enough so that it is covered when you close it up. So there is that. It's not a ridiculously simple card, but it is not one that takes forever. I mean, I kind of jabbered on longer than I feel like it took to make the card. The prep work for this card is also pretty minimal. Again, the punches do the work for you, and then as long as you have a paper cutter, it's really easy to prep both sides. And then notice, right, depending on which color you want to highlight, both of these make some really nice cards. I love the kind of rich color of the pretty Peacock, and this Mossy Meadow is such like a warm green, right? And that it essentially brings in that same thing. And then the peak of the copper in the back, that's just lovely. So let me know which one you like in the comments below. If you have any needs either for a catalog, whether it be the annual catalog or the new mini holiday catalog right here, please get in touch and I would happily send one to you. If you don't have a demonstrator and need to get any of these materials, please make sure to let me know and I can help you with any of your Stampin' Up supply needs. I have a host code for the month of August. If you are going to be making a purchase of less than $150, I would encourage you to use it so that I can send you some goodies. If you are going to be making a purchase of more than $150, then please don't use my host code. You'll get to make your own choices as to which hostess rewards you would like to earn. So if you have any questions on anything that you need help with, please get in touch. I'll see you into that. Blah, blah, blah. Goodness gracious. It's been a day. I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.